Good evening. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari has a message for critics of his government. Be fair to us, he says, we struggle to pay debts. Christian Association of Nigeria cautions those threatening to evict Bishop Kukah from Sokoto over his criticism of government, warns no harm must befall him. Federal government insists January 18 date for reopening of schools stands, but under strict compliance with COVID-19 guidelines. And vote counting underway in Uganda's presidential election as longtime ruler Yoweri Museveni faces challenge from singer-turned-politician Bobby Wine. Plus, you see business, sports, and later international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's total public debt climbs higher by 6 trillion naira in 1 year to 32.33 trillion naira as of September 2020.
On sports news tonight, former world #1 Andy Murray tests positive for coronavirus, putting his participation in next month's Australian Open in doubt.
And from Abuja, federal government reaffirms commitment to speedy completion and reopening of Third Mainland Bridge by February the 15th.
If you are a critic of the Nigerian government, then the president's message today may just be for you. He's asking Nigerians, especially the elite, to be fair in their criticism of his administration. President Muhammadu Buhari made the comments today when he received the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Christian Pilgrims Commission, Reverend Yakubu Pam, at the presidential villa. The president's conversation with Reverend Pam is contained in a statement released by his media team after the meeting. The statement reads in part, "Those criticizing the administration should be fair in terms of reflecting on where we were before we came, where we are now, and what resources are available to us, and what we have done with the limited resources. We had to struggle paying debts, investing in road repairs and rebuilding to revamp the rail and try to get power. This is what I hope the elite, when they want to criticize, will use to compare notes." President Buhari also spoke to his guests about his government's effort to tackling insecurity in the northeast and wants Nigerians to ask the people of Adamawa, Yobe and Borno states on the security situation in their communities before he took over power and the current situation. He asks, what was the condition before we came and what is the condition now? Still, there are problems in Borno and Yobe. There are occasional Boko Haram problems, but they know the difference because a lot of them moved out of their states and moved to Kaduna, Kano, and here in Abuja. On his part, the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission, Reverend Yakubu Pam, called for a 2021 National Peace and Prayer Summit involving all high-ranking officers of the church in Nigeria in the aftermath of the mediations the Commission has carried out in southern Kaduna, the farmer herders crisis in Plateau State, and the Tiv Jukun crisis in some Middle Belt states.
Before the NSAS protests, some key top church leaders were making a prayer protest on the street with their members of their churches, and that is what we went to make sure we approach them, bring them together, and have a discussion. And it was very, very fruitful. Meeting with church leaders in the South-South, Southeast, and South-South zones is a proposal. The leadership of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, together with ethnic youth leaders, have met with me in my office, and we exploit the possibility and the advantages of joining resources to host a national conference of the Youth Council of Nigeria. And this is there is every need to buy in the support of youth leaders in the effort to achieve peace nationally. Only such buy-in will curtail youth restiveness that culminated to such events as the NSAS protests and other related antisocial behaviors on the part of our youth.
Meanwhile, the Christian Association of Nigeria has cautioned those threatening the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Bishop Kukah, to stop their unlawful actions. The Christian body states that it has studied the Christmas message by Bishop Kukah, which has been generating controversy and is yet to see any incitement against Islam or non-Christians. CAN further explains that it sees nothing wrong with Bishop Kukah's message to the nation that has been under the siege of terrorists, killer herdsmen, bandits and kidnappers, as if there was no government in place. The Christian body also asked some questions in its statement. Quote, when has it become an offense to speak the truth to power? When has it become a crime to criticize a government in the country? When was the lawful fundamental human rights suspended in the country? When did the police and the DSS lose their power to miscreants and lawless people who are making boasts of their lawlessness without a challenge? End of quote. It asked the president and all security agencies to ensure the safety and security of the cleric. The Christian body also warns those hiding under religious sentiments to promote violence in crisis to stop doing so for the progress of the country. Well, staying with the threat on Bishop Kukah, Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State has cautioned against religious statements capable of inciting violence targeted at the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto. The governor, whose message was delivered by his chief press secretary, Mr. Teva Kase, commended the federal government for promptly addressing the highly divisive ultimatum issued to Bishop Kukah to apologize or leave Sokoto. He was addressing a news conference on the matter in Makurdi, the Benue State capital.
He says that the statement of the group directing Bishop Kukah to apologize or leave Sokoto State is a clear affirmation that Nigeria is being controlled by forces which are bent on setting the country ablaze if their interests are not guaranteed. The governor states that Nigerians, both Christians and Muslims, need to set aside religious and other sentiments to come together in humility and fast and pray for peace and unity of the country.
And to security, this time in Oyo State, where Governor Seyi Makinde has promised that his government will do everything possible to end kidnapping and insecurity in the state by working with all security agencies, including the newly introduced Oyo State Security Network Agency, also known as Amotekun Corps. The governor maintains that the safety and security of all residents of the state remains a top priority for his government.
Some newspapers carried the story that Amotekun killed 7 Fulani herdsmen in Ibarapa. Such false stories are circulated to stoke ethnic tension. Unfortunately, even some reputable media, they fell for this. Whereas the real story is that Amotekun worked with the community members, including genuine herdsmen, to flush out bad elements in that zone. It has therefore become necessary to put the good people of Oyo State on high alert. Each time you see a news item, you want to ask yourself, is this believable?
And in Kaduna State, at least 2 persons have been confirmed killed in a fresh attack by bandits at Chikaji village in Igabi local government area of the state. The latest incident comes less than 24 hours after 3 people, including a hunter, were killed in the same local government area. Confirming the incident, the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan, says the so-called bandits invaded the residence of one Alhaji Yunusa Gambo, a farmer in the village, and attempted to kidnap him, along with one Malam Surajo. According to him, the victims were shot by the bandits in the process of attempting to escape from their homes, adding that security agencies are investigating the incident. Well, still staying with security, the military says it has killed 64 Boko Haram terrorists in Borno and Yobe states as part of efforts to reduce acts of terrorism and insurgency to the barest minimum in the country. The Coordinator Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, explains that the military and other security agencies have continued their major operations across the country with renewed vigor.
Troops engaged the terrorists and neutralized several of them, while 10 gun trucks were recovered by the troops. In another development, on the 9th of January, troops of the newly launched subsidiary operation, Tura Takai Bongo, had contact and engaged some marauding Boko Haram terrorist element at Gujba local government area of Yobe State. During the encounter, 28 terrorists were neutralized, and several others escaped with gunshot wounds, while 1 gun truck and several arms and ammunition were recovered. Similarly, on the same day, troops had an encounter with some Boko Haram ISWAP terrorists at Gonangaji village along the Maturubuni Yadi Road in Yobe State.
And now to health matters. The World Health Organization, WHO, has expressed serious concern over the rising cases of COVID-19, new infections and death in the African region as the new variant of the virus spreads to Botswana, the Gambia and Zambia. The WHO Regional Director for Africa, Mrs. Mashidiso Moeti, notes that the African region continues to record a daily average of 25,000 new infections since the last 2 weeks. She calls for effective use of the non-pharmaceutical interventions, noting that massive rollout of vaccines in the region may not come until the middle of the year. Mrs. Moeti was speaking at a virtual meeting with members of the Africa Center for Disease Control.
Africa is experiencing a second wave, which is higher than the peak experienced last July. The continent has now topped 3 million cases, with over 72,000 lives sadly lost. While we continue to increase our knowledge of COVID-19, we do know how to stop the new and the old variants of the virus. We must persist with the proven public health measures that helped to slow down the spread of the virus during the first wave, including masks and physical distancing. Finally, a top priority is ensuring Africans access COVID-19 vaccines. The COVAX facility, which is coordinated by Gavi, WHO, and CEPI, aims to provide around 600 million doses for Africa, we estimate, in 2021. We expect the first doses to arrive by the end of March, with a larger rollout by June.
Meanwhile, the African Union has secured an additional 270 million COVID vaccine doses for its member countries, but the continent's vaccine acquisition task team says it still may not be enough to meet the demand for the region. Now, African Union Chair President Cyril Ramaphosa says all 270 million vaccine doses will be made available this year, with at least 50 million being available for the crucial period of April to June 2021. The vaccines are Pfizer, AstraZeneca through the Serum Institute of India and Johnson & Johnson, and have been secured alongside a vaccine program from COVAX, a World Health Organization, and Gavi Vaccine Alliance Initiative to bring more vaccines to Africa on a fair basis. The continental body had earlier announced that it had secured 300 million doses for Africa. In part two, after the break, appeal court dismisses suit challenging emergence of Governor Yahaya Bello as APC governorship candidate in the 2015 governorship election in Kogi State. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari has a message for critics of his government. Be fair to us, he says, we struggle to pay debts. Christian Association of Nigeria cautions those threatening to evict Bishop Kukah from Sokoto over his criticism of government, warns no harm must befall him. Federal government insists January 18 date for reopening of schools stands, but under strict compliance with COVID-19 guidelines. And vote counting underway in Uganda's presidential election as longtime ruler Museveni faces challenge from singer-turned-politician Bobi Wine. We continue with our COVID-19 stories, and this is the Lagos State government appears to be on its toes to contain the spread of the second wave of the virus. Now, the State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, says 2 more isolation centres will be reopened to care for more patients of COVID-19 and also working on building oxygen plants for health facilities.
On January the 13th, 2021, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, reported 1,398 new cases of COVID-19 nationwide. Of this number, Lagos State has 542 cases, and this has given the state government cause for concern. The implication of this is that the second wave of the pandemic is real, but the Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, is promising intensified effort in curbing the spread.
Just to be on the safe side, we're reopening 2 of our decommissioned facilities. That's the Indo at Aja and Ikeja, and we're also reopening Bagada isolation facility, just to give us the confidence that should in case we suddenly continue to see higher numbers of severe cases, that we have somewhere to manage them. And in addition, we are making our own oxygen. So we just erected the first of 2 plants at IDH. The second one will be at Bagada in 2 weeks. And that plant produces oxygen on the grounds of our hospital. And it can produce up to 60 cylinders a day. A very sick patient can use up to 4 or 6 cylinders in 24 hours. This has nothing to do with cooking gas.
Amid the uncertainty surrounding the issue of vaccines, the Commissioner gives assurance of the state's readiness to administer it.
After we deliver based on the prioritization of who should receive it, so at the moment the general opinion is that frontline workers and vulnerable members of society should get the vaccine first. The vulnerable will be the elderly or people with underlying diseases. But the dynamic of this virus is changing. We're now seeing in the second wave that it's affecting younger people just as bad as it's affecting older people. So, this is not a static situation. It's very dynamic. That means that we need to watch the landscape very carefully.
For now, the challenge for government is how to prevent community spread, and Professor Abayomi is confident that government will not relent in ensuring that all safety protocols are adhered to by everyone.
In the meantime, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 says it has not declared another lockdown in the country. The National Coordinator of the PTF, Dr. Sonia Aliyu, says the story is not true, but insists that everyone should adhere to the protective guidelines.
We are aware of a fake message that's been going around on WhatsApp that we've declared a lockdown of the country. This is absolutely not true. I'm calling on the general public to please ignore this message and continue with their normal activities. I'm also calling on the public to make sure that you abide by our non-pharmaceutical interventions, including wearing a face mask in public, washing hands, and keeping your physical distance. There's an established way that we send out messages to the public, including declarations when it comes to infection control. So please ignore what's been going around.
On resumption of school, the federal government says the January 18th date for school's resumption stands and that the decision not to alter the date was taken after wide consultation. The Minister of Education, Mr. Adamu Adamu, had earlier said the date might be reviewed as a result of the spike of COVID-19 cases. But a statement from the Ministry of Education today directed schools to reopen Monday, 18th, under strict compliance with COVID-19 protocols to avoid the spread of the virus. It adds that state governors, commissioners of education, proprietors and heads of institutions, staff unions and students agreed on the resumption date, while parents and respective institutions must all ensure full compliance with the preventive protocols. And to legal matters now, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has dismissed the appeal filed by Michael Elokun and two others challenging the emergence of Mr. Yahaya Bello as the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the 2015 governorship election held in the state. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Stephen Adder, the court held the nomination of candidates is the duty of political parties and not that of members of any constituency. The three-man panel of the court further held that the appellants never contested the governorship primaries and therefore lacks the locus to challenge the nomination of Mr. Yahaya Bello as the candidate of the APC. Justice Adder, while affirming the judgment of the Federal High Court delivered on the 20th of March 2018, said the appeal has become an academic exercise. The appellants had asked a Federal High Court to declare that Governor Bello was not a qualified candidate, having not been a registered voter in Kogi State. And an Akwa Ibom High Court sitting in Uyo has adjourned till April the 1st the case against Professor Ignatius Uduk brought by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Akwa Ibom State. The adjournment is in response to a verbal application by the Defense Counsel to enable him present his arguments for his objection to the substitution of INEC's former counsel with a new one. Professor Ignatius Uduk of the University of Uyo was the collation and returning officer in the Essien Udim State Constituency election, and he's accused of abandoning his assigned duties as the collation and returning officer of the State House of Assembly election and unlawfully generating scores and entering same in Form EC8E, thereby committing an offence punishable under Section 122, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. Professor Ignatius Uduk is the second university lecturer to be arraigned by INEC for alleged electoral fraud in the 2019 general elections. Now, a petitioner in the suit against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Mr. Godwin Obaseki on Thursday closed her case before the Edo Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Benin City, the state capital. The petitioner's counsel, Stella Agoha, informed the tribunal at the commencement of the day's hearing that a subpoenaed witness from INEC was sorting out documents to tender and would therefore be delayed. She subsequently sought a stand-down to enable the subpoenaed witness to make it to court. However, one Mr. Abayomi Samuel Ajay, the Deputy Registrar, Legal, University of Ibadan, informed the tribunal that he was present in court on subpoena at the instance of the petitioner.
Today was the last day, and the subpoenaed witnesses, the one that came, we did not see the need to take him. And the other subpoenaed witnesses from INEC, they didn't come, so we had to close our case. Yes, we have tendered the documents we need to tender, and it's basically documentary, and we know the matter is still on.
Oh, it's a good development. Today they brought a witness from the University of Ibadan. Incidentally, they refused to put that witness in the witness box. And we objected, but the tribunal said, okay, the witness can go. If we desire to have the witness, we can bring the witness back. But it's very funny because the petitioners have been making serious allegations against the governor that his UI degree certificate is forged. Incidentally, the witness from UI came, and they refused to put the witness in the box. But the beauty of the whole thing is that they closed their case today, And by Monday, INEC will open their defense. So we are making progress.
Well, the news at 10 returns. Federal government reaffirms commitment to speedy completion and reopening of Third Mainland Bridge by February the 15th. Please join us again. Welcome back. Motorists who frequently use the link bridge connecting Apapa Oshodi to the International Airport Road will have to endure a bit more as the bridge will remain temporarily shut. The link bridge, which recently suffered damages after a petroleum tanker burst into flames, will be undergoing repairs. Our correspondent Oyo Phillips brings us details.
Clear and obvious evidence of cracks and damages emerging days after the fire has been put out when a petroleum product tanker tipped. Very often on roads across the country's network, incidences of petroleum fire owing to reasons that are most times avoidable have dealt ruthlessly with public infrastructure, which are hardly quickly restored to use. A federal works delegation are visiting and have some comments.
We have carried out all the necessary tests, and then we will make the necessary remedies, to restore the strength of the bridge back.
For years, this link bridge connects you from the Apapa Isolo Oshodi Expressway to the international airport and beyond, but has to be sadly shut and will remain so until repairs are carried out, leaving many motorists confused and stranded.
Instead of the road safety and the so-called last man, to make alternative for people. So people started using one way. That's when you go like this, before you get to Charity, you climb the bridge. Then you now turn from the... Instead of now allowing these people to pass, they are extracting money from them.
The petrol tanker was actually coming from the airport road axis, not the Oshodi axis, but was coming from the airport road and tried to maneuver into the highway, albeit with some high speed, like those vehicles are coming in. But he didn't slow down like that. Now, because it's a long vehicle, as he tried to make a balance into the highway, his tank pulled off and hit the newly constructed concrete road and engulfed in fire. Now, the devastating impact is what you see. Interestingly, it happened on this side, but the impact is on this side, affecting mostly this bridge of over 40 years standing. And today, that bridge has been closed temporarily for assessment, and motorists cannot use it. The dies and the bearings will actually be repaired, and until that is done, I'm afraid this is what it is. This bridge will continue to be temporarily shut to motorists. From the Akpaku Toyota area of the Oroshoki Mile 2 Expressway, Oyo Phillips, Channels Television News.
And for more on that situation, Oyo Phillips joins us here. Hello, Olu.
Thank you very much, Millicent.
Now, first tell us, is it possible to get tankers or long vehicles off our roads?
Now, I think what we should be thinking of doing is to get them to do the right thing and use their brains when they drive on the road and expect that they're not the only road users. So sanity has to be restored with usage of public infrastructure. So, for instance, it's on both ways. I mean, that incident happened in front of a fire service station, and no single drop of water came from that fire service station. All of the support that came from Ikeja. Look at the travel time and the support from another private company to put out the fire. So on its own, it's an appraisal issue for most government institutions who are set up and do not do what they need to do. Now, on the part of having these guys off the road, you can have them off the road. There are also other vehicles. They are like other vehicles. But when things happen, actions have consequences. And when things like this happen, you go there, you take numbers. You say, okay, number of damages, number of houses. But what has happened to the man, the driver, the tanker, the company, who has caused an immense and this magnitude of damage to public infrastructure? What happens to them? Nobody is accounting for anything. We see public infrastructure being destroyed. We see vehicles ram into public infrastructure, street lights. They go away. You just come and tow the vehicle away. Nobody's paying for anything. So until there's deterrent, and we're seeing a crippling effect of weak enforcement all around town. If a driver serves the punishment, a situation where he gets to pay. For instance, now, this repair is not going to happen. This repair monies are not found in the 2021 budget. So I expect the minister to go to FEC, for instance, to begin to look for money. And that money was not established anywhere. So you have this money, you have to go start looking for it, you have to speak all the grammar to get this money because of someone else's carelessness. Now that apart, look at all the people who would have done a 20-30 minutes travel across that bridge and get to the airport. They now have to travel all the way to Oshodi before they can make a U-turn and come back to the airport because one trailer or tanker driver refuses to do the right thing. So I think if we begin to strengthen our laws and make sure that these emphases are made, or something I was thinking about, can we have something like a Public Infrastructure Protection Act or something that allows it and makes it possible that you don't do certain things to public infrastructure and go scot-free? I think those are the things we need to be doing.
So essentially far-reaching measures to really curb this menace.
Absolutely, and people should pay for their consequences, for their actions.
Thanks, Olu. Well, let's take you to our Abuja studios where Gloria Mozoke has some more stories. Hello, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, has confirmed that the contractors working on Third Mainland Bridge are on course to complete the rehabilitation work for the bridge to be reopened to traffic by February 15, 2021. The minister gave the update during the inspection on major roads and bridges in Lagos State. His first stop was at the bridge on Apapa-Oshodi Expressway, engulfed by fire when a petrol tanker burst into flames last week. The minister and his team moved to the Third Mainland Bridge, where they were briefed on the progress of work done so far. According to the minister, the closure of Third Mainland Bridge is delaying the planned maintenance work expected to have started on Falomo Bridge. The Third Mainland Bridge has been shut till July 2021, with the repair work planned for 6 months.
Most of our work is almost done. We lost 2 weeks during the civil protests. And our completion date earlier was towards the end of January. So that has slipped. We are hoping that by the 15th of February, I think, we should be done and the bridge should be open to the public. So that is one of the reasons why I also came to see how far and when this bridge will be open to the public, because this is delaying our work on Falomo Bridge. So we've done some work on Falomo Bridge. We are going to have to close down Falomo Bridge as soon as this is done so that we can also replace the expansion joints there. All the other preliminary work has been done there, but we left it in order to reduce the inconvenience to commuters in and around Lagos. So the Eco Bridge that was closed is open now.
Well, members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union and the Federal University of Technology today concluded their 3 days nationwide protest. The protest was over alleged failure of the federal government to honor its memorandum of understanding with the union on some issues affecting it. The union says they have decided to end the 3-day protest not because they are tired of demanding their rights, but because they have confidence in the federal government that their demands will be met by next week, and any action that falls short of that will keep the federal government at loggerheads with members of SANU and NASU nationwide. The union will meet on Tuesday next week to appraise the outcome of the just concluded 3-day protest and decide whether to declare a total and indefinite strike. Workers of the National Identity Management Commission are insisting on going back on strike after the 21-day ultimatum given to the federal government to address their demands. The chairman of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, National Identity Management Commission chapter, Mr. Lucky Asekokai, told Channels Television that they are yet to have the scheduled meeting with the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, to address their demands for improved welfare and working conditions. He assures that the NIN registration would be completed in 2 months if given quality working equipment.
The minister, day before yesterday, we were supposed to meet with him. We were asked to stop by because there was an important meeting that still concerns us. He waited for. I see the man as a man who has come to help us. I've seen the man as a man who has come to pull us out from the pit to the pulpit. I asked my men yesterday, let us give him the benefit of doubt. Because yesterday, we all know yesterday is Wednesday, that is set aside for fake meeting. That is the day all the ministers come together to review what they've done in the past and to discuss way forward. We still give them more time. The 21 days ultimatum is still counting. Today is the 6th day. We have 15 more days to go. That is 2 weeks and 1 day. The man still have a window of 2 weeks to call us and discuss with us and tell us how he wants us to resolve these issues. Once the 2 weeks elapses, no way forward, nobody call anybody, then we lock up again. The strike continue. It's going to be a total full-blown strike this time around. Everybody stay back at home, then we'll lock everywhere.
Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State has promised to commission at least one project in each local government area in the state before leaving office in 2023. Governor Wike restated this during the commissioning of another road in Emohua local government area. Senate Minority Leader Elinaya Abaribe, while commissioning the project, tasked the federal government to replicate same level of development and accountability.
3 days after commissioning a road connecting 3 communities in Emohua local government area, Governor Nyesom Wike is back to the same local government area with PDP bigwigs to commission yet another road.
Now in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
With Governor Wike to commission the road in Isiodu, the hometown of his chief of staff is the Senate Minority Leader, Elinaya Abaribe. Stakeholders in the local government area are full of joy for Governor Wike.
We at our local government, PDP, and as a local government, we are very happy with you, Your Excellency.
The ladder has been laid. That ladder, it does not require any human to carry you. Hold your hand firm on that ladder. You will climb and climb and climb.
For Senator Abaribe, Governor Wike is the role model of the PDP as he tasked the federal government on the reconstruction of federal roads in the southeast and south-south.
When they say, and they continue to look for excuses in the federal government, and we come here and we see how you are doing your own things without looking for excuses, we know that somebody like you cannot be left in Nigeria. We must all continue to support you.
The money to execute projects is never a problem for Governor Wike, and he's not holding back on this as he promises to even do more in the interest of the people.
Our party is a party that is the hope for Nigerians. If the other party has anything to offer, let them come out and offer. People say we have money. It's not just having money. You must have the commitment. You can have money, but you may not know what to do with the money. So it's not having money that is the issue. It's knowing what to do with it and be committed about it.
The construction of the Isiodu Road in the outskirts of Port Harcourt is considered a big achievement in the ongoing urban renewal and regeneration agenda of the Wike administration.
Well, that's it from Abuja. It's over to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Gloria. Let's bring you some business news now. Here's Teniola Shibawale.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's total public debt stock climbed higher to 32.22 trillion naira in the third quarter of 2020. That's according to latest report released by the National Bureau of Statistics. The amount indicates a 6 trillion naira increase against the 26.21 trillion naira debt stock recorded within the same period in 2019. A breakdown of the figure shows that domestic debt gulped 20.04 trillion naira, while external debt accounted for 12.19 trillion naira of the total amount. Further analysis of the domestic debt shows that 73.53% were in form of federal government bonds, 17.17% in treasury bills, while promissory notes accounted for 6.13% of the federal government's total domestic debts. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Adeniyi Adebayo, has set up a steering committee for the implementation of the Export Expansion Facility. The committee, which has the minister as its chairman, also includes the Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Mr. Nnamdi Okonkwo, as its vice chairman, the president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mansa Ahmed, as well as some representatives from the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, and the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. In a statement released today, the minister says the goal of the EEF is to increase Nigeria's export capacity in the near term, as well as its export volumes in the medium term, while protecting export businesses from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's check in on the stock market now. The domestic stock market extended the positive trend, which began earlier this week, into the close of Thursday's trading session, with about 325 billion naira added to the total value of listed equities. Let's get the details from Layo Adegoke.
Thanks a lot, Teniola, and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Call it a rally of the big boys and you won't be wrong. Now, that's because today's trading activities at the NSE ended with impressive performance across the 5 key sectors of listed equities. Now, the positive sentiment recorded since the start of the second trading week entered a 4th consecutive day with a 1.54% increase on the all-share index. Now, this is largely attributed to the strong gains from Seplat, Dangote Cement, MTN Nigeria, GT Bank, and some other high-value equities. Let's take a look at the activity chart. Volume of transactions carried out today was higher by more than half of the total turnover on Wednesday, as 809.36 million shares changed hands for nearly 9 billion naira. On the price table, Champion Breweries emerged as the gainer for the day, and this comes a day after international brewery giant Heineken announced plans to fully take over the small-cap brewer. On the other hand, Courtville topped the losers list with more than 8% loss. With the positive sentiment sustained this week, traders say Nigeria's stock market is well on its way to retain its status as the world's best-performing stock market in 2021. That's it on the Stock Market Report. I'm Layo Adegoke.
And that's Business News tonight. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Teniola. Now, polls have closed and vote counting is underway in Uganda's presidential election amid increased security presence and an internet shutdown. 76-year-old President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power for 35 years, is seeking a 6th term in office. He's being challenged by 10 opposition candidates, including 38-year-old musician turned politician Bobby Wine. Some 18 million voters registered to take part in the poll, and results are expected by Saturday. Well, let's head over to our London studios for more international news, where Simon Pusey has more on this and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Donald Trump faces trial in the Senate after becoming the first US president to be impeached for a second time.
The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
He has been charged with misconduct in office and is accused of inciting a mob that stormed Congress last week after he repeated false claims of election fraud, an assault where 5 people died. The trial will be held after the president leaves office next Wednesday. If Mr. Trump is convicted, senators could also vote to bar him from ever holding public office again.
Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
The trial follows Wednesday's vote in the House of Representatives that formally impeached the president with incitement of insurrection for his role in the riot. The Republican president has rejected responsibility for the violence. In a video released after the vote, he called on his supporters to remain peaceful without mentioning his impeachment. An international team of scientists led by the World Health Organization has arrived in China's central city of Wuhan to investigate the origins of the coronavirus that sparked the pandemic. The long-awaited probe comes after months of negotiations between the WHO and Beijing. A group of 10 scientists is set to interview people from research institutes, hospitals and the seafood market linked to the initial outbreak of COVID-19. The team's arrival on Thursday morning coincides with a resurgence of new coronavirus cases in the north of the country, while life in Wuhan is relatively back to normal. Rebels in the Central African Republic have attacked the capital but were repelled by presidential security forces and UN peacekeepers in an escalation of an election conflict. Helped by newly arrived troops from Russia and Rwanda, the presidential army has been battling groups seeking to overturn a December the 27th vote in which President Tudera was declared victor despite fraud claims. The United Nations peacekeeping mission said one of their soldiers was killed. A UN source said around 200 rebels had participated in the attack and remained close to the city after having attacked towns nearby. The head of Sudan's Sovereign Council has visited a border village to offer condolences to families of those who were killed in an attack by gangs with the alleged cooperation of Ethiopian forces. Abdel Fattah Burhan toured the border area and met military personnel and civilians living there and condemned what a foreign ministry statement called an attack by Ethiopian gangs 5 kilometers from the border. 5 women and a child were killed, and 2 other women who had been harvesting crops are still missing. Mexico has announced it will invoke labor provisions in the new North American Trade Pact to ensure that illegal migrants in the United States receive coronavirus vaccines. Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard told reporters the labor provisions of the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement include health protections for migrants regardless of their immigration status. Therefore, Mexico's government will seek to use the provisions to ensure that migrants receive coronavirus vaccines. Mexico responded with concern last week after the governor of the US state of Nebraska said undocumented migrants would likely not get vaccinated due to immigration status. And finally, Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg is set to feature on a set of stamps issued by Sweden's postal service. She will join a hall of fame of Swedish personalities from Zlatan Ibrahimovic to Greta Garbo, who have been depicted on the country's postage stamps. The stamps show Thunberg in her familiar yellow raincoat, standing on a rocky coast, looking at a flock of birds. Ms. Thunberg's movement, Fridays for Future, approved of the image on the stamp, but played no part in its design. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Time now for some sports news. Abia Warriors head coach Imama Amapakabo has been given a 3-match ultimatum to turn the fortunes of the club or get sacked. This comes after the Umuahia-based side failed to win any game in the ongoing Nigeria Professional Football League, thereby causing panic among the fans. 4 defeats against Eyimba, Rivers United, Akwa United and Jigawa Golden Stars means Abia Warriors are rock bottom of the table. In the English Premier League, Arsenal FC have missed an opportunity of moving into the top 10 as they were held by a resilient Crystal Palace at the Emirates. It is the 5th meeting in a row that Arsenal have not managed to beat Crystal Palace. With this result, the Gunners are 11th with 24 points, while Crystal Palace stayed on 13 points with 23 points. And that's a wrap on sports news. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today asked the critics of his government to be fair on them. He said they struggle to pay debts, invest in road repairs and revamp the rail and power sector. Also today, the Christian Association of Nigeria cautioned those threatening to evict Bishop Kukah from Oyo State over his criticism of the government. The religious body warned that no harm must befall him. And vote counting is underway today in Uganda's presidential election, in which longtime ruler Yoweri Museveni faced singer-turned-politician Bobi Wine. That's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Mwaka. Have a good night.